Unlock the secrets of real estate and stay informed about the latest real estate buzz with hot market trends, emerging suburbs and hidden gems.
No one in the property industry working in Melbourne needs another lunch or another drink. There are people out on the streets who need it more. So a Home for All was kind of the obvious place for us to donate because it is a property industry initiative. It will go to the right charities to help the right people.
And that is Aine McGrath in Melbourne this morning. And welcome back to the Real Estate Breakfast, right around Australia, 7 days a week. Talking your property news and information from Mackay to Phillip Island, and streaming right now on multiple platforms, including Spotify and Apple. Hope your weekend was a good one. We are up to a Monday, November the 24th. Got to tell you, over the weekend I watched The Beast in Me. This is this American psychological thriller on Netflix starring Claire Danes. It's been a while since we've seen her in anything. Niles Jarvis, a scary character in this miniseries played by Matthew Rhys. Top shelf, totally recommend this, especially the line from Niles Jarvis, "How you doing, neighbour?" And if you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Now, long-term homelessness rose by 25% in Australia, with housing costs a major factor. Now, many experiencing housing instability are being forced to couch surf or sleep in their cars. The Guardian, in fact, profiled a woman named Lisa, now in her mid-50s, who lives in her caravan because she couldn't afford rental housing on a disability pension. Divorced women, we've talked about this in the past, particularly those with children, they are struggling to re-enter the housing market because of the lost shared income. Experts warn that many of these women may never own a home again and will be forced to remain renters indefinitely, largely due to housing prices and limited borrowing capacity. Now, according to Homelessness Australia, the number of women and girls seeking homelessness support has jumped by 20%, and much of this is attributed to rising rents, domestic violence, and a lack of housing options. Homelessness services also report that they are overwhelmed. Many can't keep up with demand, and some people fall through the cracks entirely. So let's catch up and go to Melbourne and catch up with Aine McGrath. And a very good morning to you, Aine. Now, you always knew that homelessness was an issue, but after learning that rough sleepers make up about 6% of homelessness in Australia and that many people sleep during the day because the nights are too dangerous, you decided to do something about it. And good morning to you.
Oh, good morning. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, look, we at Savvy Communications work very closely in the property industry and have seen over the years the rising issue of homelessness and affordability across the board. I think it was, 6% sleep rough, but it was more than 94% that, you don't know about. So 6% are sleeping rough, but 94% are hiding it. As you said, sleeping in their cars, sleeping on couches, sleeping, couch surfing through people's homes. The homelessness number, 6% are visible, 94% really keep it a secret. And that's a really shocking statistic because when you walk around the streets of Melbourne, we see the 6%, we're not seeing the other 94 who are in just as much trouble and may very well end up right alongside those 6%. For us, that statistic was really, really shocking.
The stat of 122,000 Australians homeless on any given night and 1 in 10 at risk. I mean, the crisis suddenly is very deep, and it touched you and your staff because this is really great of what you guys are doing. Instead of hosting your usual end-of-year celebration, you and your 32-strong team have decided to donate your Christmas party budget to the new A Home for All Foundation, and you're working inside the property sector, as you say, and you just felt compelled to act. This is a shout out. I'll get you to explain this in just a moment, but this is a shout out to all of you planning a Christmas party. A lot of money goes into this, so you're leading by example here, Aine, and we'd love a few more people to, even if it was half your Christmas budget, it's going to make a bit of a dent.
Yeah, look, it sure is. You know, A Home for All was a foundation that was started by the property sector in Australia, and it's backed by REA Group. You know, that was they've got a really strong initiative at the moment to try and raise $1 million, which has actually happened. That $1 million has been raised. But for us, it was something quite obvious. We were planning our Christmas party. We have a really big bash every year and sort of quite infamous in Melbourne. But we sort of looked at each other and said, you know what, something doesn't feel right. No one in the property industry working in Melbourne needs another lunch or another drink. There are people out on the streets who need it more. So A Home for All was kind of the obvious place for us to donate because it is a property industry initiative. It will go to the right charities to help the right people. And yeah, it's a shout out to all our clients, all our suppliers, all our customers to say, look, you don't have to do your whole Christmas party. Maybe just donate personally the Uber fare that you would have spent coming to our party. Every dollar makes a difference. You know, you don't need a huge bag of cash, just a teaspoon will go far enough. If everyone does their little bit, we can really help the people who are living out there on the streets.
We are talking to Aine. She is there in Melbourne, and to raise awareness, her team is taking part in the Foundation's first national initiative, A Night Without Home, and we'll talk about that after this.
Stay ahead of the competition with the latest news, insights and data analysis on the Property Podcast that keeps you informed.
We are talking to Nat, all about divorcees. This is a real problem. Rushing to sell the home post-separation. This can be a really big mistake. Alternatives like selling equity, renting temporarily, or careful staging a property sale may provide better outcomes. Always amazes me, Nat, when somebody decides to get divorced, some people just want to quit that family home at all costs, just not realising long-term the effect of the financial situation will be for them downstream.
We see a combination of things happen. You know, we see people staying in the family home long after they should in some respects. But yes, definitely people rushing to quit, as you say. And that can also be an emotionally charged decision, obviously. You know, once you make the decision to separate, you just sort of, you know, some people just want to get it done. You know, they've been through emotional turmoil leading up to that moment, and it becomes a sort of knee-jerk reaction, I suppose.
This article that came out from PropTrack, I hadn't actually heard the term, and you were the one that raised it, bird nest parenting, which is, as you say, reflects the shifting family dynamics. They do that because children can stay in the family home while separated parents rotate in and out of the home. It's a really interesting concept, that rotating in and out. Sometimes it's about cost, other times it's for completely the stability of the kids. And I guess that only works if the parents can actually talk to one another.
It does rely on amicability between the parties. And in fact, I was an advocate for bird's nest parenting to the extent that I did so myself when I separated from my ex-husband. And my kids were quite little at the time. We did have the benefit of having an investment property that was close by. We both had to share the family home. We both had to share the investment property that we vacated. And it was tough. Living standards vary between separating partners quite often. And I can say this from my own experiences. In fairness, it was a decision we made for the benefit of the children. And that has proven to be a good decision, I feel, long term.
We don't just report on real estate news, we take you to the source of the information. We produce more property podcasts every week than anyone else. We are your trusted guide for all things real estate.
And it is a Real Estate Monday. Yeah, a bit of a grind back into a fresh week. And we are talking to Aine in Melbourne. Now, to raise awareness, you and your team are taking part in the Foundation's first national initiative. This is a night without home, sleeping in the office to stand in solidarity with those that have no secure place to stay. You're joining thousands of Aussies who are spending a night in cars, on couches, or outside to help the Foundation edge over this $1 million of fundraising, which has already been achieved. So tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah, sure. So we've put it out to our team. Obviously, it's not a mandated thing here at Savvy Communications. Some people might not feel comfortable with it, but, we've had great take up and just come into the office, work on Thursday, just stay here. We're not going to have any sort of creature comforts. We're just going to reflect on what it might be like to not have anywhere to go home to sleep. We're just going to bunker down, spend a night in the office for those who feel comfortable, and really reflect on how tricky it is for people out there who don't have a lot of the comforts that we do.
Yes, homelessness isn't a distant issue. It touches every community, unfortunately. As we said with that stat, 1 in 10 Aussies are at risk. It is a crisis hiding in plain sight. People couch surf, they're living in cars, shifting through unstable housing. Let me ask you this, is there anything that really sort of touched you as you sort of take a bit of a deep dive into this? It might be somebody that you have spoken to who is also homeless. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, look, sure. I think on a personal level, everyone would have a story about people that they know who may have, through no fault of their own, fallen into difficult situations and are really at risk of falling into that category. I personally know someone who was at risk. I did my bit to help them sort of find somewhere and be okay, but, I was lucky enough to be able to do that. But these are people who, particularly as you mentioned, the over 50-year-old female group, domestic violence, divorce, don't have anything sort of a backup. They can fall into this category very, very quickly, and I think just everyone needs to do their bit to help.
Have you noticed sort of post-COVID, just in the terms of on the streets in and around the CBD of Melbourne, have you noticed just how much that's kind of grown in numbers?
Absolutely. No question. All the high streets in most of the suburbs have got people living on them, begging, bunkering down. Their homes are in a shopping trolley. It's at crisis level.
All right, Aine, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for spending a little bit of your Monday morning with us, just highlighting a growing problem in and around the streets, especially Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Perth, etc. Good luck with hunkering down and having a night away from your warm bed. And thanks so much for sharing your story on the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Have a good day.
Remember to follow us on any of the podcast platforms so you never miss a real estate podcast. You can follow us on Apple, Spotify and Amazon. Know your property with us.
We are seeing first home buyers lean more towards units. Canberra is certainly increasing their construction on units, so off the plan units are certainly increasing, but equally so some of the older units, those that are 10 plus years old.
I decided to myself I should start to invest in myself, which is I invest everything, my first commission, on making videos on social media.
There's what's called the neutral rate, Craig, and this is where the RBA is a bit vague about what is the actual neutral rate, an interest rate that doesn't stimulate nor curtail activity too much. And it was thought that that rate was around 3%. However, now that we've got stronger inflation and also pretty robust employment, it could be that that neutral rate is actually higher.
Through the construction, you're looking at probably just over 2 years to actually get that project finished, and probably 6 months of that is just tied up with red tape for the design process, the council approvals.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.